Last time we talked out here on Spout Run, we were in the middle of construction for our restoration project to do some stream bank stabilization, habitat improvement with the goal of improving habitat for fish, aquatic organisms, and reducing the amount of sediment entering the stream channel during storm events. 2 days after we finished construction on the restoration project, we had a pretty massive storm come through the Spout Run watershed. The USGS maintains a flow gauge, a discharge gauge, and it went from 22 to 23 CFS, which is cubic feet per second, a measure of discharge, up to 800 feet, which is potentially, a flood of record. We haven't really done the full analysis yet to determine that, but it was a big storm. And so if you look around behind me, where you see kind of flat, bare ground with a little bit of grass coming up, that's grass seed that we put down just 2 days prior to the storm coming through. Water was up into this area. It was also up into the grassy area behind of me. Now, if we had not done the work we did and had this 800 CFS storm event, we would have seen massive bank failure, huge chunks of sediment falling in from the stream banks.
We've experienced a fairly large storm event after our restoration work, but we're pleased with the results of what we're seeing, particularly the fact that the low flow channel has been maintained, and we're also seeing where the higher flow events have deposited materials out here on the floodplain. So we would prefer to have the high velocity flows within the channel, moving those gravels around and the sands. The further outside the channel we get, we're noticing we're getting a much coarser material. This sand you see is all deposition. You see the fiber matting we laid down after the construction and seeded it. This material here is all newly deposited, a fairly coarse sand. The further up and out of the channel you get a much finer silt material. And we find that that's a benefit to the aquatic system here to get those fine silty materials out of the water column and back out on the floodplain where it could act more as a rejuvenation for the soil. And if you'll look across the stream, this is the outside bend over here. We have a lot of the silt depositing higher up, which I'll show you. Again, we're seeing the sands depositing here adjacent to the channel. The further we get out of the active flow, we're into the finer materials. And what we have here further off the active channel is the much finer materials depositing. And what had formerly been in the stream causing problems for aquatic life has now been deposited. And I'm seeing at least 2 inches of this fine silt material has been deposited up on this embankment.
So what we were doing out here today was resurveying the reach of stream that we did the restoration work on to see where we have new deposition of sediment, where we have maybe some new scour in our pools to deepen our pools, and to get a feel for if the stream has changed or adjusted any because of that storm event. The nice thing I see here when I look at some of this gravel that's come in, we know that brook trout need gravel to spawn in. So from a Trout Unlimited perspective, we'd like to do what we can to improve habitat for trout. Again, Spout Run being a spring creek, we do have the potential to grow trout here, but they need clean gravel to spawn on. And typically you see that clean gravel occur at the tail out of a pool. So the water's coming down through this pool, and you'll see where it kind of dovetails in is where we kind of what we call a tail out of a pool. And this is where we're getting some new gravel deposition in the channel. And so this is where brook trout will come in the fall to clean this gravel off, make a red, deposit eggs, and spawn.
Some of the projects you build and you leave, but this is our teacher here, so we should be able to learn a lot from monitoring this over time. And this is such a beautiful spot that I don't mind coming back here.